I'm just going to say a few little things about the collection, really. A lot of people ask, about the name Fuaimlaoi. Father Micheál McClafferty, a Carmelite, I asked him for a name, and he came up with a poetic joining of two words, Fuaim, which means sound, and Laoi, which is the epic narrative poem of old. So we take it to be something like the sound of our ancient spiritual song. So in the last few years, with this group, I'm trying to see if I develop something that gives expression to our own culture and language and traditions. Trying to just bring life to it in a way that our forefathers would have, maybe could relate to. Ancient Promise contains a broad range of the type of compositions that I do in Irish and English, but I think the most important thing to focus on is the text in them. When I listen back to over the last week, since so I can be a little bit objective about it, it seems that there's a lot of joy and uplifting, a sense of uplift in it, and that comes from the texts that are in it. We have psalms bursting with praise, other psalms full of trust in God's love and mercy, another celebrating God's hand in the wonders of creation. There's also the outpouring of Mary's joy in the Magnificat, the excitement of the telling of the Easter story in Song of the Resurrection, and the traditional Irish morning prayers which acknowledge God in the morning song. And even, it seems to me that even the more reflective pieces within the collection are no less hopeful. So it's this hopefulness that prompted my choice of the title for it. The two words Ancient Promise appear together in one of the settings, Come Adore This Wondrous Presence. Here it refers to Christ's presence in the Eucharist, but out of this context, ancient seems to connect us with the distant past, while promise seems to throw us forward in hope for the future. It's important to try and develop liturgical music in our own language. The Irish prayers in this collection seem to me to have a pure and very natural quality. They use very simple and expressive language that obviously grows out of the psalm and inspire us with the kind of charm, I don't know if it's charm, but just it speaks in a way that our forefathers could relate to, I think. Sensitive English translations which capture the nuances of these prayers were provided by Father Micheál McClafferty, a Carmelite priest, and a native Irish speaker. So they're included in the inlay notes and in the book that I put together. Excuse me. The Irish prayers prompted my choice of image for the front of the cover. This beautifully vibrant photograph by Eamon McCarthy, who thankfully is here with us this evening, transports us out into the west of Ireland landscape to contemplate God's creation. The primary source of the Psalms is often drawn from the beauty and the harshness of the Palestinian landscape, the olive groves, the vines, the valleys, the meadows. But had the psalmist lived in this part of the world, I think maybe the bogs and the silver birch might have featured as well, possibly. I like to think so anyway. So, Fuaimlaoi brings his letters to life by using a lot of vocal and instrumental colour. Luckily, we have people with a lot of broad range of talents in it. Most of the singing is in unison, which makes connections with the sean-nós tradition and plain song. But I think it's important to remember that at the core of all of these settings, it is really a melody line that carries the scripture and an organ accompaniment that provides the direction and the impetus. So even for ordinary parish use, that simple form of expression of these is very valid, and often you wonder, sometimes less is more. So in putting together the book, I included a lot of instrumental lines, and I left out a certain amount of them because the book would have become very big and awkward. And yet, so these will be available. Any of these melodies that you hear tonight will be available from our website anyway. So some of the settings are choral, and they draw inspiration from various traditions like our polyphonic choral tradition. Now, the instrumental arrangements evolve naturally and are used to give vibrancy and vitality. Some recall Irish music, some classical music. But I'll end by just saying that I compiled this collection in response to an ever-increasing number of people asking me, will I let them, will I put together a book of settings? So I tried to do that and tried to make a complete set that would be used to choirs of various types, because some choirs can think that if it's not sung in parts or in harmony that it's inferior music, and for me the life and soul and the beauty and the lyricism that we hear these people are able to sing, text is a beautiful thing. I don't know, it's something it bonds us together. It's often hard to do because there's a natural looseness in it that you can't even harness. So that's roughly to give you an idea of what I think this collection is like. So I hope that it will prove to be a useful resource for church choirs and maybe encourage the use of our own traditions in the liturgy. Thank you very much.